Happy Tuesday. My name is Sarah Howard, and I'm the Youth and Community Services Manager here at the Daniel Boone Regional Library. And today we bring you holidays or hollering days, tips to lower your holiday stress level. And I'm going to turn it over to Kim Dude-Lammy because Children's Grove is sponsoring this program today. So we are thrilled to have them here. And Kim is going to introduce our speakers for today. And don't forget to put questions in the chat.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to Daniel Boone Library for being so supportive of these seminars that we have. Thank you very, very much. Welcome. Children's Grove is an all-volunteer nonprofit organization that promotes kindness and positive mental health among our youth, which is why it is so important to have this program today. I want to proud to introduce our two presenters. First is Heather Harlan. She is a Children's Grove volunteer and also a volunteer for NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Health. She's a volunteer who works at the Health Education and Promotion Unit of the Columbia-Boone County Health and Human Services. She has a broad background in mental health, along with prevention and treatment of substance abuse disorders. She's also a professional storyteller. We also have Sarah Berke, who is a program manager in behavioral health and wellness department at A.T. Still University. She's been a very active volunteer for NAMI, and the whole program is sponsored by the Children's Grove. So thank you very much, both of you. And I look forward to just joining you in watching and listening carefully. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate you taking time. We're going to share with you 59 ways to de-stress your holidays. And just to tell you a little bit behind the list, I'm coming to you today as a Boone County Public Health and Human Services. I'm part of the Health Education and Promotion Unit, but I have also volunteered for a number of years with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Columbia. And a number of years ago, my brother Tim suggested, why don't we have a discussion and sort of give each other tips on how to lower stress during holidays? And that sounded good. So we started a list, and by the time we wrote it down a few years later, it was like 47 tips. And so it sort of keeps growing every year. And the NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, is a group that offers support, education, and advocacy on families that are dealing with mental illness. So these ideas are from people on the front lines of dealing with extra stress levels kind of the whole year in terms of managing chronic health issues for themselves or being supportive of loved ones who might have a chronic health issue in terms of mental conditions. So these are some of the things that they suggested that have been helpful for you. And actually, every year when I read over them, I think, actually, this is pretty good for all year. So my friend and colleague in NAMI work, Sarah, is going to help out, and we're going to swap off. Sarah's going to monitor the chat. Please feel free to offer some comments or questions. We don't want to just be the only ones going over this, but if you see something that resounds with you, you're free to let us know. If you have a question about it or something to add to it, that's very welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. Right. And then we will just sort of go down this list. Some of these things are obvious. Some of them maybe are less than obvious, but just things to keep in mind. And again, we have 59 plus. Sarah has 2 new ones that were offered this week. So we're actually be up to 61. Don't try to do these all at once. Maybe just 1 or 2 of these you think, oh, that would help me a lot if I might try that or keep that in mind. So don't try to be a high achiever on this. All right, so we sort of divide these into sort of routines to do before and then in preparation for the day and then the actual day of a celebration, sort of different things to keep in mind. So one of the things we always like to bring up is routines. Number 1, adequate sleep. Energy lags and moods may suffer, and our ability to be pleasant or productive suffer if we fail to protect our sleep. Now, I know an extended family member that will stay up very, very late the night before a holiday wrapping gifts, and it makes for kind of an irritable situation sometimes. So being sure to protect your sleep and plan how you're going to do that. Exercise, dressing warmly and going for a walk is within our reach on most days. If you have a workout schedule, make it a priority. So keep doing that in terms of keep moving, keeps us healthy, having adequate sleep. Stay connected with positive support systems, those folks who add positive energy to our life and with whom we can be honest. You know who those people are in your life. So this is a good time to be sure to stay connected to them. Don't neglect those connections that might be especially helpful for you. Adhere to medication routine. Set up reminder systems to remember to pack meds if traveling and cues to take them if our schedules are disrupted. Check to see if a refill is needed in time to get it filled. I know I've had several vacations in which a family member forgot medications and we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get them filled someplace else. So being sure to make that high on your priority list on your check, double check, write notes, put an alarm on your phone, tie a string on your finger. What is it you need to do to remind yourself to do that? And then also, if you're going to be gone, get those refills in as soon as possible. Some of us think, oh, I could call in a refill this morning and get it by this afternoon. Maybe not. It might be several days wait. Sometimes they get backed up. So plan for that and go ahead and take care of that refill as soon as you can. Debt. Plan carefully for holiday spending. There's a lot of articles and stuff on that. So I think the more that we do that, the more helpful it is. We don't have to be obligated to participate in things we can't really afford. Control chaos. Take time to clean as we go, making cooking and wrapping gifts more efficient. Remember healthy eating. Our bodies run best on appropriate fuel. Consult your healthcare provider if taking nutrients, as some prevent therapeutic effects of prescribed medications. So again, sometimes if we're focusing just on calories, we can eat Skittles all day and stay within our calorie limits, but our body's still going to be screaming something's wrong because you're not getting nutrients and the proper fuel that your body needs. So pay attention to what we're actually eating and be sure they're nutrients that we need. Sarah, would you comment on the nutrients and that perception?
Yeah, I think one thing too to think about is in a lot of medications, can interact with supplements, for example, that you might be taking, or you might think supplements aren't really controlled very carefully, and they can interact with certain medications, and things like grapefruit juice can interact with certain medications. So being aware of what supplements or other nutrients you might be putting in your body that might interact with your medication. So being careful to look at those kind of warning labels on your meds.
Right. Staying hydrated in the midst of busy times. Remember to drink plenty of water. Again, sometimes we think it's hunger. It might be we just haven't had much to drink. And if you pay attention, our body, again, gets kind of like something's wrong. And we don't often realize it might be we just need to have a drink of water. So stay hydrated. And if you're feeling a little off, that might be one of the first go-tos to try. Wash your hands often. This is still an effective weapon in preventing infectious conditions. Even a common cold can compromise your holiday celebration. So that's just something, again, that's been on our radar for several years, but let's go ahead and keep it on there because even a common cold could make a difference and kind of waylay you for a while and interrupt your celebration. Avoid skipping recovery meetings. For many, social healthy supports are vital to sustained recovery. So whether it's going to a NAMI meeting or an AA or NA or Smart Recovery, whatever it is that might be a regular recovery meeting for you, still make that a priority to stay in touch again with those people who understand the different stressors and different variations in your environment that might be a problem for your recovery. Monitor intake of alcohol and caffeine. Higher levels of consumption can interrupt sleep and react negatively with medication. So again, I would say during the holidays, there's a lot more emphasis on alcohol intake, even than there might normally be, the normalization that everybody drinks, right? Not everybody does, but there's sort of that perception in our culture. And also the understanding that alcohol actually is very disruptive to our sleep. So when we introduce alcohol, I know people will claim it helps me fall asleep. The reality is also when you dump in that depressant chemical, then your body wants to offset it. So there's balance, and about 2 o'clock in the morning dumps in chemicals that will try to stimulate you and wake you up. So just keep that in mind. And then also with caffeine, you probably know what your limit is for caffeine and watch it carefully, because it may be, sometimes it ends up in foods more. Barbecue sauce may have coffee in it, which is a weird thing. But looking at, there may be more beverages that are offered that have caffeine, and you want to be aware of that. Okay, we're going to go to page 2. Sarah, take it away. You're still on mute.
Yeah, I just realized that. We
Okay.
talked about that just a minute ago.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move into thinking and planning ahead. So we have number 12, to kind of plan ahead, anticipate challenging situations, and enlist creative strategies from family members involved. I know in our particular family, downtime can kind of be a challenging time for our family, and we get into some conversations that become rather difficult. So we ask people to bring favorite games or activities that their families like to do, so that we can all learn something new. We maybe come up with a list to share the meal plan, responsibilities, things like that. Lower your expectations, review our expectations or assumptions of what we want to happen, and then lower them a few notches so you don't set yourself up for failure. You want to make sure that whatever your expectations are, just kind of lower them a little bit so that you can come out ahead in the end. Verbalize your expectations. Unfortunately, our family members and friends aren't mind readers. So you need to definitely verbalize what your expectations are for the holiday season. It's difficult to abandon all expectations, but take some stock and see what the expectations are for you and what the expectations are of your loved ones that you're going to be with. You want to be able to make sure too that your expectations are realistic. So being able to keep those in check. Enlist the help of your doctor now. This is so important, especially for those with mental health conditions. Medication adjustments might be needed ahead of the time for the holidays to deal with stress. I know I usually need a little bit more anxiety medication, for example, before the holiday to help deal with the stress of the holidays. And sometimes those medications can take many weeks, sometimes up to 6 weeks before you see the benefit. So if you can start talking to your doctor now and plan for that holiday season, you'll be doing a lot better. And again, kind of noticing any kind of risky food or supplement interactions like grapefruit juice, like we talked about before. Setting goals. So list some simple things to accomplish each day and celebrate when we cross them off. And if you're like me, I usually forget to add things to my list. So whatever I do accomplish, I add to my list so that I can cross it off, even though it wasn't originally on my list. So,
And
but being able to set simple goals for what you want to accomplish each day.
I always found it helpful, Sarah, to list out some with multiple steps. So I used to do like do laundry, and then it's like I wouldn't get credit until I gotten everything put away. So I learned to do sort laundry, wash laundry, dry laundry, fold laundry, put away laundry. So that even if maybe I crossed off 5 or 6 things, even if I didn't get all folded, put away, but I got it all done and sitting folded in the basket, I should get some credit and be able to cross those off. So, maybe wrap presents, put them under the tree or whatever it is we need to do. But my lists get kind of long because I want to multi-step operations.
Yeah, it gives you a little energy boost to be able to cross something off that list. So number 17 is to allow others to have their traditions. Extend loved ones the right to experience old and new ways of observing what has meaning for them. Be open, compromise, and focus on togetherness rather than this is the way we've always done it type of stance. This is something that's been very important in our family as we've blended 2 different religious traditions together. So kind of seeing exactly how are we going to do that and make sure that we do that fairly with both those traditions has been important. Choose small celebrations. So volunteering or attending a smaller worship service or party may be more calming than larger extravagant events. I know I'm a person who, if I go to a lot of large events, I am very overwhelmed very quickly, sensory overloaded, exhausted, irritable, and have a really difficult time. So I enjoy those much smaller events where I can have more meaningful conversations with people and kind of celebrate in a less sensory overload type of way. Plan ahead, create a list, and communicate specific ways that guests and family members can help. There's no need to suffer in silence. And again, remember that they're not mind readers, so they can't tell exactly what you're thinking in your mind. Our loved ones aren't, oh, just as I said, aren't mind readers. I guess I should look at what I was going to say. And now we only have to remember where we put the list is the other thing. But in our family, we divvy out the meals, and each family is responsible for a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner on that particular day. And they're responsible for sharing the list for the grocery shopper ahead of time and making sure everything's put together carefully so that everybody can plan ahead and feel like they're contributing to the event.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
I was just going to say, Sarah, also planning specific ways family members can help. A lot of times there's like, let me know if I can help, kind of this vague thing. So again, they don't read minds, list out specific ways, give, instead of our being resentful, they didn't offer, or they didn't say, could I bring a casserole or could I bring the sweet potatoes? Tell them, could you bring the green beans, please? Could you bring the salad? Could you bring the dessert? So-and-so's bringing blueberry pie. Would you bring a pumpkin? Be very specific on what it is for them to do instead of being resentful. That resentment blocks love when we accumulate that in our lives. So being able to be more specific, speak up, and tell people what it is they could do to help you. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. Mr. Rogers always said, it's a sign we're growing up when we ask for help when we need it. Big holiday meals are a time that we need some help.
Yeah, and I know my family members really appreciate it. Like, they're willing to cook something if I give them a recipe. So being kind of open and available for that too. Have patience. Holidays are a seasonal journey, and as the sign says, anticipate delays. Try to be prospective if vehicle repairs or weather disrupt your plans. Want to be honest about how long you can handle having your routine disrupted, or how long you can realistically be with your family without being overwhelmed, and you want to adjust accordingly. Give yourself the grace to make the visit a short one. This has been very important in my life. We've set up some really strong boundaries. I'm not a person who can spend a week with my parents. It's just too much for me and too much for them. And so we've decided we're going to have shorter visits, just 1 or 2 days long, and that works better for us. So we can have more frequent shorter visits as opposed to shorter, longer visits. And it's healthier for our relationship.
And Sarah, I just wanted to say what we were discussing before we started. This is on NAMI, Columbia, Missouri. We have a Facebook page, and we had posted this suggestion on our Facebook page. And oh my gosh, it went like 21 times higher than usual. It went out to like almost 2,000 people. It got shared so much. So this is something that really resounds with people. It's just being honest. It doesn't mean we don't love our families or we don't want to be with them, but be honest about how long we're really going to do well at that. We have limits.
Yeah, and allow yourself to release that guilt that you might feel about kind of setting that limit. Listen with love. Family members who may feel less than when around other family members who seem more successful. You might have a family member with a mental health condition who hasn't met the kind of typical milestones that you might be met by somebody of their age. They may not have gone to college at the same time or gotten married or had children, and they may be feeling less than. So offer supportive listening skills. I can see why you feel that way. That sounds hard. Thank you for letting me know. Avoid trying to fix, and make sure that you honor their emotions and kind of meet them where they're at that particular holiday. Number 23, create a mental health kit to keep with you. This is something that I do for me and for my children. I'm a big proponent of aromatherapy, so mine has different aromatherapy scents in it. You might have an iPad, fidgets, books, or puzzles, or little crossword puzzles, or jigsaw puzzles, whatever it might be able to do to kind of help keep you healthy in the environment that you're in for the holidays. So I'll send it over to you, Heather.
All right. We're still on thinking and planning ahead. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Choose several things you hope to enjoy during the season and adjust as necessary. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 things you really, really, really want to be able to do. And sometimes weather or somebody's sick or again, car repairs or expense. For some reason, you're just not going to be able to do that this year. So being able to think of several things that you would like to do instead of that one thing you want to get done or that you want to participate, activity in which you want to participate. Compromise, a willingness to give up part of what you want can go a long way to create goodwill. I think it was Ben Franklin during the Constitutional Convention said a lot of people get victory when goodwill would be of more use to them. So sometimes even with our families, goodwill might be of more use to us if we can compromise and sort of negotiate over what might be possible. Allow people to have more or less enthusiasm than you. Avoid insisting everyone love or dread the holidays as much as you do. They can be trigger points for some people in terms of something they really enjoy and look forward to, or some people may just dread them and just kind of would prefer to wake up in January when it's all over. Allow people to have the space to experience it their own way. Go over the schedule. 27. Those involved may appreciate knowing what to expect and check to see if the plans work for everyone. I know I have an extended family member that does very well. If you let him know this is what's happening tomorrow, instead of just springing it on him, hey, we're going to Grandma and Grandpa's. Doesn't like that. That doesn't go over well. But if he knows ahead of time and can kind of acknowledge that, I think most of us probably work better that way. But sometimes those of us who do more of the planning for holidays forget to communicate again and to let people know what to expect. So go over the schedule. Think ahead regarding noise and activity levels with gifts you buy for children. A musical instrument or toy with a siren or a magical sword might not be the ideal gift when you're spending time with lots of people. And sometimes it might be a lot of people in a small house. Perhaps wait until after the family gathering to give such noisy or active gifts to children who will want to play with them right away all day. Remember, toys encourage certain behaviors in children. Now, the reason this is on there is my brother said it did not happen, and I will tell you it did happen. So that I think my nephew was 3, and they gave him a fireman's helmet with a siren and a light. And so we had the fire siren and the light going off all day because it was absolutely age appropriate for a 3-year-old to enjoy that. But the rest of us in a small house, for all those hours, it was kind of challenging. So again, just think through that, how you may or may not want to do that instead of, we didn't even think about that. Different families may have different responses to that, but just think about it. You can wrap gifts in no-cost paper like sale flyers, magazine catalogs, plain side paper bags, and old road maps. I used to use funny papers. I don't take the newspaper anymore, so I don't do that. But if you still take the newspaper, you might try that. This can save money and help the environment. Leave off the bows, write the names right on the paper. Ribbons and tags don't get lost when packing gifts for travel that way. Invite a loved one to attend gatherings as your advocate or go-to person. If feeling overwhelmed and you need to step out or leave the party early, your advocate can smooth things over with other guests as necessary. Your advocate might sense your rising stress levels before you do. Consider agreeing on a code word or phrase to communicate. Sarah, you want to speak to that a little bit? That was one that you had suggested.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, so my husband is my advocate when we're at parties, and I tell him when I'm getting overwhelmed and I need to go to a quiet place. I let him know, and he kind of takes care of it. Some of my in-laws have a better understanding of mental health conditions than others, and so he's able to explain what's going on, and I don't have to do that. So it takes the burden off of me, and it reduces my stress level. And also, he's phenomenal. If I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need to leave, he doesn't ask a second question. He's like, okay, we're gonna go, and so he's there for me, and protecting kind of my mental health during the holidays,
Right.
at big gatherings, which is wonderful.
Right. I know for me, there was a chapter in my life when it was good to take 2 cars because we were able to. Not everybody has that option. But then we could each, we weren't joined at the hip. And if one of us was like, I'm really ready to go, and the other one wasn't, then that was okay. Then one of us could go ahead and go home early, and we didn't have to intrude on someone else if they were having some good conversations or enjoying people. So if that's possible, that might work. And often when I used to do drug and alcohol counseling, often family members would tell their loved ones, I can tell when you're kind of getting stressed maybe before you do. So sometimes it's helpful if we can develop those trusting relationships that our family members know. We do need to communicate, but sometimes it's helpful if maybe we're not monitoring how we're feeling as well to be able to communicate with each other about what's going on. create a quiet activity pack to take with you at that gathering. So Sarah mentioned having that during the season, but maybe specifically planning when we go to Aunt so-and-so's for Christmas, I'm going to take this with me. But it's something that contains puzzles, books, coloring pages that are soothing pastimes for you. As a family, give to a charity, work together to plan purchases for others less fortunate, assemble resource packs for homeless neighbors. We did something different with my family last year. For the adults, we just decided none of us need anything. There are a lot of people who are in need in our community. So we each got to give to a charity of our choosing. But then we kind of wanted the opening thing. So we put a symbol of what that charity was about in a box and wrapped it up. And then the children of our families opened it. And then we all guessed what the charity was and who in our family we know that might have given it. And that was fun for us last year. And it really made shopping a lot easier for us to do it that way. But we still had fun on Christmas Day with that. Be intentional about extended family giving. Discuss whether to continue tradition with all adults. Increase your sunlight intake. Seasonal affective disorder is caused by limited interaction with sunlight. Being outside in the middle of the day when the sun is brightest can help. And of course, we're having the least number of hours of daylight here going into the winter solstice. But planning for that, and I try to take a walk here at work, and I might try to do around the middle of the day so I get a little bit more sunlight and take advantage of that. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, so you want to anticipate and allow for feelings of grief. Holidays mark remembering losses of loved ones, relationships, health, dreams, and other major parts of our lives. When to share this sadness with loved ones, allow others their own timetables to accommodate their losses. Not everyone grieves in the same way and at the same rate. Some faith communities have special Blue Christmases that might be able to help with this situation as well.
I would say also for folks to be aware, sometimes as difficult as the first Christmas is, sometimes the second or third is almost harder in some ways because it seems as though the support has sort of drifted away. So just keep that in mind that those losses are ongoing for folks.
So we want to plan for recovery meetings. You can find them in most cities and smaller communities. Have access to a long list of supportive phone contacts. Arrange ahead of time for a check-in call with a sponsor or a close recovery friend, even if things are going well. And plan ahead for plan B in case you have poor cell phone reception, your dinner runs late, something happens that you aren't able to go to that particular meeting. There's lots of different recovery meetings. We mentioned NAMI meetings, AA, NA, Smart Recovery. So you can check out a new meeting if there's not one that is a typical one that you're used to going to. Pray or meditate as your beliefs allow. Connecting with spiritual support helps many people cope with stress and can cultivate a sense of peace and wonder. Consider buying all or part of the holiday meal ready-made or dining out. It's okay not to make it all yourself. It's even okay to make none of it yourself. So this is something that we have done with our family, is purchasing the meal has been less stressful and has allowed for more meaningful family time because a few of us aren't squirreled away in the kitchen working all the time and then are exhausted by the end of the day. So we've been able to have more meaningful family time. Pre-plan some things that you'd like to talk about. Topics might be books you have read, TV shows, movies you've watched recently, past favorite memories, something interesting you've learned. This way you can redirect the conversation. I know in our family, there's a thing called table topics, and I've bought a couple of those different packs of table topics. They have ones on gratitude, ones on family, ones on a lot of different things. Would You Rather is also very popular in our family, and there's some other really fun getting to know you games, kind of like Wits and Wagers and things like that you can participate in. So now we're going to move to choices for the day of the celebration for the hosts and for the guests. So number 40 is to create a quiet room. So try and designate one room as a retreat where guests can go to recharge, rest, or read quietly during the chaos of a large gathering. Inform guests and set out quiet, calming activities such as coloring pages with crayons and simple puzzles. This has been something that's been a very good respite for me, is when I have a quiet place to be able to go to. Rent a room. If you're staying at a family member's home for the holidays causes you stress, rent a room at a nearby motel to have a place to decompress and rest. So this might cost you a little extra money, but your mental health is worth it. And don't feel guilty about needing to be able to go and rent a room. This is something that we do for the holidays as well. Fake it till you make it. Sometimes we find our attitudes become more positive as we practice and act social. We've talked about taking a walk, either alone or as a group. This is a great way to relax and stay more pleasant. I like to do sensory walks where I do things like 5 things that I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell. Sometimes I mix it up and look for 5 things that I think are funny, and I really encourage you to look at squirrels for that one, or 5 things that are beautiful that you see out there. You'll be in a very different place if you're stressed at a party, you leave, you go and do this kind of sensory walk and come back, even if you're just gone for 5 minutes. And then it takes a very short time and it will reset you, which is really nice. Check the weather forecast. You can take a walk in almost any weather if you plan ahead. So take an umbrella, a raincoat, dress warmly, wear boots, gloves, and a hat as needed. Hand warmers can also be very, very wonderful. And those little toe warmers, which is what we use a lot in our family.
I will tell you, Sarah, hand warmers were a game changer. I could get everything else warm. I could keep everything else warm with hats and with hats and ski pants, all kinds of stuff. Even my feet were warm. I was fine, except my hands.
Yeah.
And then a neighbor a couple of years ago gave me hand warmers. I was like, oh my gosh, that just totally made a difference. Kept my hands warm until, the blood really starts pumping, which takes over half an hour to really get your hands warmed up that way. So
Yeah.
it's great. It's worth an investment.
And then we have number 45, which is lend a hand, offering to help the hosts and volunteering to support those less fortunate, strengthen our ability to consider the needs of others too. So we might go to volunteer at a food shelter, help out ringing bells for the Salvation Army, something like that, and being very specific about what you're going to offer to help your host with. So do you want to take it up there, Heather?
You betcha. All right. So ask for help. Again, it's a sign we're growing up and we ask for help when we need it. So realizing we need help and 2, asking for it. Request assistance to head off irritation and resentment. As I said, it was a big deal for me to realize resentment blocks love. I don't want to go there. That's not who I want to be about. So that's part of my self-care then is asking for help. I know a number of families who watch or go to a movie together. This affords a way to be together without a lot of pressure to interact. So now it's not uncommon for movie theaters to be open or again, maybe just watching a movie at home is a possibility. Provide activities for guests. Board games or puzzles often help people feel less pressure to excel in conversation, but still enjoy being together. Special activities or space for children might help. Let others be right. Instead of arguing with family members, close the discussion with an honest, well, you gave me something to think about. You might be right. It doesn't say you are right. It says you might be. Thank you for calling that perspective to my attention, because most of the time we're not going to change anyone's mind. And we just need a way to graciously extricate ourselves from the conversation. We want a safe face, but so does the other person. So you could say, hey, well, you gave me something to think about, and you can end it right there. Detach. Allow other adults' behavior to reflect on them while accepting your behavior reflects on you. You may love someone, but you are still 2 different people. So you don't have to carry around that I'm responsible for another adult's behavior. Practice acceptance. Accept the unexpected will happen. Shift to solution mode. What is realistically possible now? 2, accept fuzzy logic. Some parts of the holidays aren't rational, and some guests won't be either. It doesn't have to spoil our celebration. We don't have to be in charge of correcting anyone's thinking, religion, or politics.
I like in that one that you can accept without agreeing. So you can accept somebody's beliefs or their religion or their politics. That doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with them.
That's right.
And I think that's an important distinction.
It certainly is. I love 53, short and to the point. Remember, parties are supposed to be fun. They are optional. You don't have to go to every, I'm getting more invitations to stuff this year than I have in a few years, I think probably because of COVID. But being able to really pause and think about those. So my response right now is I think so, but I'll get back to you. So it's not automatic. So I'm thinking those through, but they are optional. You don't have to go to everything everyone invites you to. Practice recovery-friendly hosting. Many people prefer not to drink alcohol or need to avoid it due to medical situations or work academic caregiving responsibilities. Offer a variety of non-alcoholic, decaffeinated options so all feel welcome. Some folks who are avoiding alcohol may feel more comfortable if the hosts avoid alcohol for at least the first half of the party. And I tell the story of a party I went to some years ago that I walked off how long the table was. It was 6 feet long, filled with alcoholic options for people could fix themselves drinks. There were 2 things on that table because I was choosing not to drink. There were 2 things, water and Coca-Cola. And it was an evening party. So I had water. But that was it. That was the only thing there that was friendly to me, user friendly to me. Now, it wasn't because the host thought, well, we're just really going to get Heather and not put anything out there she can drink. It's just accepting that people who might not drink at that occasion was not even on their radar. The total normalization. Everybody drinks, everybody's here to drink, except not everybody is. The last part about for the hosts awaiting to drink is when I would talk to my clients when I did drug and alcohol counseling. I said, what would be helpful to you if you went to a party where there might be alcohol served? And they said, it would really help if the hosts just wouldn't drink, maybe the first half of the party, so that there's somebody else who's not drinking. So that's just something to keep in mind that they had brought up would be helpful for them. Bring your own healthy beverage or food item. Not every host may be aware of your special diet or drink considerations. Choose to bring along a beverage or food that feels celebratory to you and bring it along. I have a family member who has celiacs, and even if people prepare gluten-free dishes, it might not be prepared in dishes and in a kitchen that's everything is gluten-free, or they think this ingredient is gluten-free, but it's not. Did you know soy sauce isn't gluten-free? That kind of stuff. So, it's probably just good to plan that you're going to take something, again, instead of resentments happening, just go ahead to accept the fact if you want something that feels celebratory to you, you just might have to take it yourself and take it. That's self-care. Invest in the time to shop or prepare something that feels right for you. All right.
Number 56. We are going to park our car a block away. This way you can enjoy the walk. If you or a family member needs to leave, it will be easy to exit without asking others to move their cars. And just like you don't have to accept every invitation, you also don't have to stay for the entire celebration. So that's important to remember. Reframe. Be appreciative and positive about the time family members can be together instead of dwelling on the time that they can't or may feel too overwhelmed to stay for many hours or days at the holidays. And that kind of gets at some things that we mentioned earlier as well. Spread out the celebration.
Sorry. I was just going to mention there also that, as family members, we may, well, how come they won't stay the whole day? We're going to, and being whiny about why they won't stay the whole day or as much time as we want them to, instead of, again, focusing on the fact that someone made the effort to be there for lunch. Thanks so much for joining us for lunch. We're so glad to have you with us. Focus on that. Be appreciative of that instead of, sometimes I get whiny if people won't stay the amount of time I want them to stay. So again, just to verbalize that appreciation and focus on that.
Yeah, that's good. Spread out the celebration. It's a season, just not one day. Consider some small, low-key gatherings to enjoy leftovers and ease out the holiday pace gradually. Some people miss the holidays when they're over, so that's important to remember as well. And admit powerlessness. It's not in our control to create the perfect holiday or to always be the perfect guest. So we can't be perfect. And definitely can't be perfect all the time.
Right.
Now I have two more to add based
Yeah.
off our conversation from before. One is to take snacks along, because lots of times holiday meals can run late, and especially if you have little ones running around your feet, they might get a little hangry and need a little snack to be able to tide them over. Adults usually are a little better about that than children are, so think
I'll-
about taking some snacks along.
I will say I've adopted a BYOB, bring your own banana. So because I have bananas just the way I like them, and I wrap them up and I take them like to conferences and stuff. And I just I got to plan ahead. So we may be going. It's 2:00 and we haven't had lunch. And then if I approach a big meal, and I'm really hungry, it's not a good thing for me. So being able to have my blood sugar not bottom out, when I thought about that, it's not just for kids; it's really for adults, and it's not. The meals are just going to run late for a lot of families. Yeah. Okay. What's that
And
number
then
61?
Number 61 is to do dress rehearsals. So this was something that was recommended with children, to have them practice opening gifts. And some of the gifts might be little small trinkets that they would enjoy, and other things might be things like a block of wood that they're not so excited about getting as a present, but for having them practice being thankful and appreciative for the gift that the person gave them. So then when they are more on the scene at the holidays, they know how to be thankful and appreciative for the gift, no matter whether they really truly was something they were excited about receiving or not.
Right. And I wanted to add also, I don't know where to put, I think it's back to sort of communicating expectations. I know of one person who feels very strongly they want their children to wake up in their own beds on Christmas, and they're not going to travel on Christmas. And they made that clear to the mother and father-in-law. So being able to work with that family working together, well, when can we celebrate, or when will we see the children during the holidays, et cetera, to work with that. That was important for that parent to say, this part of it we're going to do. This is really important to us, and we're going to do this. And then say, now, how can we know you want to see the kids. We want you to. How can we work that out? So that's been an ongoing compromise to some extent, and then some negotiation. But so they've had to talk and work through it a lot for people to get what they want out of it. So again, it's a season, it's not a day. So if they aren't there on the day, does that mean they couldn't be at your house the middle of the week after Christmas and wake up knowing they were going to get to open gifts? But so to keep that in mind.
Yeah, we kind of do that with our family too. When we lived far away from everybody, we said, we'll travel 2 years, and then 1 year we're going to stay home, because we just don't want to travel every single holiday. And so we kind of set up a rotation with family and said, you're welcome to come to us, but we're not going to come to you, because we need to have some of our own traditions as a family at our house.
Right. So one of the things we just want you to be aware of here in the Columbia area is that we do have NAMI Columbia, Missouri support group meetings once a month. And it's on our Facebook page, listed as the times, et cetera, for that. And if you're interested, there's a lot of resources we've got here. NAMI.org, www.nami.org is our national organization. There's lots of resources there that you would just be amazed, again, with education, advocacy, and support. www.namimissouri.org would give you connection with our state group, and they do a lot of contracting, for example, with Missouri Department of Mental Health, to be able to offer support and courses to family members and individuals who live with mental health conditions. So that's a wealth of resources for all over the state. And then finally, again, if you're interested in checking out, and if you're a person who just wants to other people know on your social media that you're interested in mental health and what those resources are in your community, we'd welcome you to like us on www.facebook.com/NAMI Columbia Mo. But if you just go to Facebook and go NAMI Columbia Mo, because there's more than one Columbia in the United States, that would be able to get you those resources. And we're putting some of these tips up a few days every week before Christmas. So we're really glad to have been able to share these with you. I think that's the end of our program, the official part of it.
Are there any questions or comments or discussion?
Hello, this is Sarah Howard from the library. It was just a delightful presentation and a lot of good tips that I wish I'd known a few years ago. So that's always good. So I thank you so much for giving us, and this is recorded. So for those of you here live, if you know somebody that would be interested, it should be up on our library website like Friday or Monday. So people can enjoy revisiting all of the tips. So.
And I think also, and it will be to be able, and then to be able to share that on your social media so people learn more about what that's out there. And, you know, when I look at like women's magazines, they'll have this kind of thing like 7 tips for, you know, the same idea, but a lot of time that's tied into marketing something. Buy these organizers or get this certain casserole dish or this gift card from this company or something. And I appreciate this list is from families who are dealing with real life challenges and are just trying to make the holidays to focus on more joy and a little bit less stress.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you, Kim and Children's Grove for bringing us this program.
Thanks.
Have a lovely Tuesday.
Hope everybody has good holidays. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.